All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Redefining Fabulous podcast. I'm Jessie, your host and the creative director of This Way to Fabulous. And today I am here with Felly, who is an agency owner and considers herself an unprofessional entrepreneur. So that out of the gate right there is like just automatic means for a fantastic conversation because I freaking love that. Like, I love just being different and, you know, kind of like coming up with titles for ourselves because like screw society, screw what everyone says we should be. So before we start and, you know, kind of dive deeper into your actual journey and everything, you know, why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about yourself? Maybe like a quick synopsis of where you're at right now. I know you have a lot going on right now. So let's give everybody a little bit of a synopsis here.
Where do I even start? Hello, I'm Felly. I run a content repurposing agency. I live in France with my new husband, and I'm trying to get out of France. That's like where my life is at. I feel like currently I am in I just overhauled like my Done For You retainer, and now I'm doing it with my Done With You offer. So it's like there's lots of behind the scenes going on right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like excited to like be done with it and like be done in Q1 and like let everything just like come to be the rest of the year.
Yes, that was me in like Q4. I was like, I actually closed my doors in Q4. I actually like stopped my calendar, took on no new clients in Q4 because I just was feeling that like never going to catch up, drowning, was in the middle of some transitions from a marketing agency to really focusing on being a branding agency. And that's how I was like, Q4 just needs to be over. So like, you're like 3 months behind me.
Yeah, basically. I'm like,
that's so
close, but
good.
so far.
So are you from France or do you just live there right now?
No, I'm from Vancouver in Canada. I live here because I met this French guy when I was in Mexico, and I was like, you're cool, and now we're married, and I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere in France. So like it's not permanent. I tell myself that every day.
Yeah.
But for the time being, I'm in France.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so she has a, you know, content repurposing agency. Why don't you maybe explain a little bit what it is that you do for your clients?
Yeah, so we repurpose content. We take your existing content and we create new content with it. We have two ways that we do that. We have an offer called the Remix, which is where people send us their existing content and we send them back content ideas, content prompts, like 2 to 3 points of like take this original post and do this with it.
Mm-hmm.
For like people who already have teams or for people who are just like, I can't anymore. And then we do the actual content creation for the people who want to be on like multiple platforms, who don't want to do anything but record their podcast. And so that's where we write emails, blogs, social media content, and we also do short form videos, like cutting up long form videos or taking B-roll and putting text on screen.
Yes, I love that. Why don't you kind of give us a little backstory of, you know, how you got into that? How did that like become? That is a fantastic niche, first of all. Like literally everyone needs that. But I want to kind of know a little bit of like how did you get there? How did you end up in a place now where you're like doing this?
So I started as a general VA, as like so many of us do, and I pretty quickly niched down into content writing because creative writing was my thing in school. And I got really fed up with people being like, hey, I want like 20 Instagram captions this month. This was like 2019, 2020, so it wasn't all the fancy things we do now. But it was like, yeah, I want like 8 emails. I want like 20 captions. And you'd be like, I would be like, okay, like, what are you selling? What do you want to talk about? What are your offers? Who are you talking to? You know, and like, obviously I didn't have the best onboarding systems. But also it just became like, even if I know what you're selling and who you talk to, like, what's going on, you know, like I can write the generic 3 ways to, how to, why, what makes me different, why hire a blank industry, but if you want it to actually be content that stands out and content that's specific for your voice, I needed more than just like the ideal client paperwork, right? And so that's where I started basically stalking my clients and like taking their old content to repurpose it. And then I realized it was actually an industry and there's a whole thing about repurposing content. And so that's how I, long way short, got into it.
Yeah, no, I love that because I feel like, oh God, especially just the world we live in now is like content. Like everybody needs content. And what's so interesting that I totally connect with is like needing more. Like I need more from you. I get that you think that I can just like make this up out of thin air, but like that's not how this works. Like you have to give me something and then I can like wave the wand, but like you have to give me something. And that was a huge issue for me when I was a marketing agency, because we were getting a lot of people who were coming to us that were like, I just need you to get my Instagram following to 10,000 or 100,000 or whatever. Like I just need you to get my TikTok, and I'm just like, like, we need to back up here for a second because, like, that's not the problem. Like, if you can't give me XYZ to build some of this content, like, your problems are a lot deeper than you think they are. And so that's kind of the beginning of how I got very, very passionate about focusing and hunkering down on branding and making sure that these businesses aren't wasting money. Like they're not throwing money into the wrong places because they do the work first. And so I think it's a great testament. Just it's validation for me that I'm not the only business owner that is like so just frustrated with clients not giving you enough, but I can't blame them totally because, society and social media, the way that people are showing up on social media, they make it look so easy. They make it look like it was developed out of thin air. And so like, that's where it becomes our job to educate our clients on like what that means, like what giving them a level of like what you need from them. So let's kind of back up for a second here because I want to get your take on it. How, let's go back and talk about content. Like, let's kind of define content a little bit here because I think that the word content sometimes is where people get tripped up too. And let's talk about that a little bit. So like, when you say content, can you give us more depth to what kinds of content there are?
So, okay, yeah. I'm like, where do we start with this?
Just jump it out.
Giant bubble. Content is, in what I'm speaking about is marketing content. Content that will market your business, talk about your business, talk about your offers, talk about your values, blah, blah, blah. So I view there's 3 types of content. There's video content, written content, audio content, podcast, audio content. YouTube video content, TikTok video content, right? Instagram can be all of them if we're being honest.
Right. It's kind of like a catch-all.
Yeah. You have like blogs and emails and threads that are like strictly written content. And so, like you said, there's such a demand for more from all the platforms, from all the gurus, when you are running a business and creating content or marketing yourself. And so my thing with content is to find like the type that works for you. Like we don't all like video, we don't all like writing, right? But also finding a frequency that can work for you. You don't have to be on every single platform. You need to find the ones that you enjoy showing up on and that you can be consistent showing up on.
Yes, I love that. And I think that, content in general, there are so many kinds of content, right? There's short form video, long form video. I mean, they're like, even when you get into those 3, types, then there's all different tags and categories that can go on that of, whatever. And I think that it becomes very overwhelming for the standard business owner who's not a creative. And I get that. Because like, as the business owner, even though I'm the creative, like I'm also overwhelmed with that for my own business, right? Okay, I have to ask you, is it easy? Like, do you find it easier to do the work that you do for everyone else, but then you struggle like all hell to do it for yourself? Or is it just me? Because if it's just me, that's totally fine. But like, I struggle with it for myself, but I can do it well for others.
I would say like 50-50.
Okay.
Sometimes all my content is repurposed, so I'm putting out nothing new. Like basically all of Q4 last year, my emails were repurposed from old emails, from podcasts, from threads. A lot of my podcast episodes were threads first because I like to basically test the idea on threads to see like how people react, what questions people ask, and then I turn it into a long form piece of content. And then there's other times where I'm just like uninspired and just like talking about nothing.
Yeah.
And I know I should go through my content and I don't. So I'm like, I have two.
So it's seasonal. It's kind of seasonal for you. Like there's this, every season's for a reason. I get like, I think that's totally true. So, okay. So I'm curious, maybe I'm asking for myself, maybe I'm not, but, I'm curious, like what is your secret to, helping people figure out what kinds of content is right for them? Like, how do you help people make that decision? Because I think that there's a lot of people out there. I've done a lot of inner work to kind of like ease out the noise a little bit and really kind of, I have a good idea of where I need to be, but it took me a long time to do that. And I think I'm an overthinker because I'm a creative, but like, I'm curious what your process is for helping people figure that out. Like, is there a checklist or is there something that you specifically do that listeners can kind of think about right now and be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be trying to be on every platform. This is what I need to do.
I feel like people won't like my answer.
That's cool. I love it. I love it when people don't like my answer.
I would say that you have to experiment first.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't give you a checklist of like, okay, go record a podcast episode. Okay, go write an email. And like, which one did you enjoy more? It's not that. It's like about the consistency part of it, right? Yeah. So it's like, okay, go show up and post on LinkedIn for 3 months. Go put out 10 podcast episodes. How do you feel about it? How did you like the process of doing it? How did you feel after you put it up? And like lots of check-ins with yourself.
Yeah.
And just like also accepting, like, I love creating like ridiculous lip syncing videos. They don't do anything for my business though. So it's like sometimes I see these creators on Instagram that are like, oh, if you just make a reel with this hook, you're gonna go viral, you're gonna book out your business. And I'll be like, oh, I could do it, but it doesn't actually do anything for my business, and it's not like the most enjoyable. It's more of like a shiny distraction. Yeah. So it's like even ones that you do like, sometimes it's like, well, that's not going to be your main marketing. It's more of like a enjoyable content.
Yes. And I'm a huge believer in like, those things are fun once in a while because they show your personality. They show a little bit more of like maybe who you are behind your brand. But I want to see some conversion numbers. Like if this is what your focus is going to be, I will make people send me conversion numbers before I do anything, because you proved to me that those, like, I get that you went viral. I get that like your video got like 2 million views. That's cool. How much money did you make off of that? Oh, I don't know, but I got like, 500 followers. That's great. How much money did you make off of that? How much did you convert? And I think that that's the biggest problem with social media right now, is that like people are trying to run their businesses on social media, not use it as the tool that it is. And so, that just like, I could talk about that all day. Oh, I've had so many instances with that. Okay, backtrack. What was Jesse talking about? Okay, we were talking about content. What you actually did give them a checklist. So it was kind of like, you have to experiment. You have to see how you feel. You have to see how it's accepted. You have to like check the analytics. You have to check in, guys. Like that is something you have to do in any kind of marketing, any part of running your business. That's not even like, that literally is not even specific to content. That is everything in your business. You have to experiment. You have to come back. You have to accept when it's not working, and you have to be able to walk away when it's not. Like, you can't just keep posting lip syncing videos when it's not making you any money. You just can't. So, okay. So now that we've kind of defined the content, how do you go about choosing, what things you're repurposing? Is there benchmarks or anything that you're looking for when you're choosing which types of things to recontent or to repurpose?
To recontent.
To recontent. Same thing.
I have 2 rules, and I think it depends on like how far along in your business you are, on which one you're gonna resonate with more. Or just, so the first one anyone can do, and that is looking at your analytics. That is looking at what content got the most engagement, what content got the most comments, shares, saves, whatever, clicks, opens, if it's emails, listens, if it's podcasts. And like, that's a key indicator of what the people are engaging with, what is sticking out to them, right? And then the other thing that I want you to look at, and I always recommend repurposing strictly because of how it positions you as a thought leader, as an expert, for lack of better terms. And that is content that focuses on your framework or your method or your process, depending on the type of business you run. If you have that content that's like, okay, my framework is, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of a 5-letter word, like learn, and it's like L is this and E is that and A is that, right? Like, so that kind of content, you want to repurpose that and like make a post that's strictly about the letter L, the transformation people have with L, the problems people face before they solve L, and then like do it for every single letter, do it in every direction, every angle you can possibly repurpose that, because those are the posts that tell people like why you. It's your process, it's your genius, and it's you showing that you know the solution to their problem.
Yes, that is everything. And honestly, the one thing that I'll add on to that too is breaking it down helps it feel less overwhelming to them when they're making a decision or when they're learning more about you or learning more about the service or what's the word? They're like validating that, yes, they're in that position. Yes, they need that service. Yes, they're feeling that way. Because we have to remember, like, social media is a really fucking noisy place. Like, it's so noisy, and the amount of content people are trying, or the amount of like information sometimes that people are trying to put into one piece of content, they wonder why it's falling flat. And the straight up reason why, in my opinion, is that it's too much. It's not quickly absorbable. And I'm not saying you can't have that, because in your feeds, it's nice to have the full framework per se. But like, if you're not taking the time to dive deeper and make it kindergarten for everyone, like that's where people connect. Maybe that's just me, but like that's the type of content my audience connects with, is when I break it down into something really small, really absorbable, and really relatable. That's when people start to like engage and comment and share and all these things, because they feel seen. What are the majority of the comments you get a lot of times are like, oh my God, yes. Oh my God, I feel seen. Oh my God, same, right? That means you connected. Yeah, yes, right? So like, oh my God, I love that. So then how do you choose how or where you're going to repurpose it? Like, how do you, if let's just say this podcast, for example, right? Like, we'll have this whole podcast episode, outside of it being a video content, how else, well, like, how do you choose how you would repurpose this? Would you make a static image of our faces? Would you take clips of the video? Like, how do you make that decision?
So that comes down to our clients and their marketing strategy. So I'll ask, like, before I create anything, is what is your intention for the platforms you want to show up on? So if you were like, from my podcast, I want emails, blogs, short form videos, and carousel posts. And I would say, like, what's your intention for reels? What's your intention for carousels? What's your intention for blogs? Right? And so from there, it's like, okay, so your blog is to educate. I'm going to focus on like the educational pieces from the podcast. Maybe it'll be one like big blog. Maybe it'll be 2 like breakdown blogs, depending on like what we talked about, which sections of the conversation I want to use. Again, emails, it's like, if you want to be selling with emails, it's going to go in on the specific nuggets, the specific parts that focused on lessons, transformations that can relate back to your offer. Then again, reels, let's say you wanted to generate leads, then it's like, okay, what's the polarizing opinions? What's the like scroll stopping sentence, hook, whatever that was said that's going to capture people's attention, make them stop and say, wait, I want to learn more. I need to know what's next. And same like carousels. The other one that we use for intentions is nurture. So it's like, again, if you're nurturing, then it's about people already know you generally if you're nurturing them, and letting them deeper into your process, explaining in deeper context what you meant by this standout phrase, or if you're in this stage and you're feeling like this episode talks about this and this is why it's relevant to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest way that we decide what we're putting on each platform and what to take from the content we're given to recreate.
Yes. And I love how you just worded all of that, because I think that word intention is so important when it comes to repurposing, but also when it comes to creating the original piece of content, right? So I think I see a lot of people who, just are posting to post because they feel like they're supposed to. And I feel like people are they're afraid of just not showing up. And I get that, but at the same time, like intention. You have to be intentional. And the biggest thing I loved about that was that you said that, you ask intentions for each platform. I want to dive into this a little bit because this is something I see a ton, and I'm assuming that you do too. But all of these platforms that are allowing you to post to like as many of the platforms as you want, like you can push the same piece of content to every platform. What is your take on that before I say anything about mine?
I don't like it.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
It's funny because like there's a platform that's called Repurpose.io, and I don't believe what it does is repurposing. What it does is it reshares, right?
Ooh,
Repurposing is to recreate your content, and copy pasting your content is not recreating your content.
Ooh, say that louder for the people in the back. Say it louder. No, seriously, say it again.
Yeah, I will die on this hill, but I don't believe that copy pasting is repurposing.
It is not. It is copying and pasting.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like literally duplicating, right? Like Command D, duplicate.
Yeah.
For any of the shortcut nerds out there, Command D is the same as right-clicking and selecting duplicate. Like copy and pasting is duplicating. It is not repurposing. Also, I don't know what the definition of purpose is, but I'm pretty sure it's not duplicate. I'm pretty sure it is, to make a certain thing, go a certain way or do a certain thing, or like it has intention behind it. So I love that. And that is like, so huge, because there are times that I feel like certain platforms, it's okay to post like one post to like Instagram and Facebook in that one post, because it was intentionally created to serve both audiences. But the key word there was that it was created intentionally to serve both platforms, not just created to be created and then just like pushed to every platform. There's a huge issue with this in general from a marketing standpoint, but the fight I get back from a lot of people is, but it's efficient and it saves me time. How would you respond to that?
Does it make you money?
Right? Show me the conversions. Now, I will say this. If you are in a season where you are experimenting, I would raise my, I would like lower my bar a little bit on like, you should never do that. Like, you should never post to multiple platforms, because if there is something, if you're in a season where you're experimenting, and you really want to see how a certain piece of content is accepted or whatever on multiple platforms, cool. But you better be in a season where you're experimenting, like that. There's a season for a reason. And if you are not in an experimental phase season, you should not just be pushing it to everything. So that's my TED Talk. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay. So when it comes to, building content in general, I know that you stand a lot behind the intention thing, right? What is your take on like omnipresence and how many platforms people should be showing up on, and like that whole kind of like stigma of you need to be on multiple platforms? Like a lot of people, a lot of coaches, a lot of big people are saying, you need to be everywhere at once, basically, without saying that. What's your take on that? Like, what's your take about, helping someone who may be in the position where they're trying to show up everywhere because they feel like that's what they're supposed to do, and they don't really know how to choose? How would you kind of like walk someone through how to choose which places to be on versus being on everything?
I mean, I think it's funny that people are now saying you need to be everywhere, because before it was like master one. But I would say if you're solo, like if you're running a lean business or you're newer, I tell everyone to use email. It's like my ride or die email. I think we should all use it. We should all have it. But on top of email, you need something that gets you visible, because you need to drive traffic to your email. I know people who do like guesting, summits, conferences, like that's their other marketing platform. They're not using social media, or people who use like blogs and Pinterest to get to email. It doesn't have to be social media, but for a lot of us, we're using Instagram and email, or Threads and email, or TikTok and email, right? Once you have that down, that's when I say to add in a third one. And again, like going back to like my belief in intentions, kind of having different intentions, like Instagram, for me at least, is great for like nurturing more than it is for lead generation. So it's like having something that's like a lead generating platform, having something that's a nurture education platform, and then like selling on emails, nurturing on emails. I think anything more than 3 platforms is a good time to have support, because if you want to be posting on 4 platforms, it's a lot, because like I said, I don't believe in the copy pasting. So you need to be either having, like for myself, I have someone who schedules for me, because I will never post everything I create.
Yeah.
But it's like having either someone that will go through and repurpose your main piece of content, or who will go through and schedule all the content you created, goes a long way in staying consistent on 3 or more.
Yes. Okay, so I feel like we have to dive back into this too, because I think this is also huge, at least in my community right now. People think email is dead. And I have a lot of clients who I have been, stretching their strategy into email against their will, kind of, because like they don't see the importance of it. They think that social media is more important. I got to get your take on the whole email is dead thing, because I felt sick when I started hearing that. Like I really I'm not good about email. I will be flat out about that. I'm not good about it, but I do know how important it is. Like, I'm not saying I'm perfect. That's our biggest 25 goal, is to really boost up the email to go along with our social media, which we've taken a huge step away from. But I got to hear your take on this whole email is dead thing.
I don't agree with it like at all. I don't think it's possible for email to die, but it's also kind of like how people are like, oh, blogging's making a comeback. Blogging never left. Blogging's not making a come back.
It
It's
just
just that
wasn't the
people
shiny
are like,
object anymore.
yeah, people are remembering it existed. But email, like for me, emails where when I'm good with it, let's be clear, because I was literally talking with my coach about this earlier this afternoon, that I get stuck in this trap of like writing like blah, blah, nothing emails, or like just like life update emails. And the thing is that it's because I do the weekly email. So it's when I go to sit down weekly that I'm like, what do I talk about?
Yeah.
But when I'm consistent over Christmas break, I did this, I made sales, and I made like my high ticket done for you retainer sales from writing sales emails, from writing a series of emails that talk about my offer from all the different angles, because those emails can sit in that person's inbox until they're ready to read them. When you're posting on social media, if they don't read it that day, it's gone, right?
Mm,
You don't get in front of them with every single post. You don't get in front of them every single day, even if you are posting every single day, right? So email is like getting you inside that person's phone directly, where social media gives you a chance at getting in front of them, right? So I think
yeah.
email will never die. I think the problem with email is writing good emails.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And your subject lines, because we do live in a world now where email is overwhelming as all hell, because you buy this and you're automatically in this thing, and like I for one just had an unsubscribe day. I mean, like I had a day where I was just like so up to here with just stress of all of the things, and then I got like 5 more emails that were like, I am unsubscribing to subscribing to everything, and then people stress about the numbers when their subscribers go down, and I like that's a good thing. If your subscriber number goes down, it's actually a good thing, because if they don't belong there and they don't want to be there, you don't like. That's fine.
You don't want them there.
Yeah, you don't want them there. A, they're hurting your open and click rate. B, like if there's someone who's not interested, good riddance, move on. Those numbers do not matter. I love that you mentioned though that like the issue is writing good emails. I am going to ask a total sidebar question here. And what is your take on the whole AI phenomenon along with all of this repurposing and emailing and all of those things? What is your take on kind of where things are at right now, and where you think things are going to go with AI in the next couple months?
Where I think it's going to go is like a huge undecided gray area in my brain.
Yeah.
Because we've seen AI just keeps getting better and better. Over the last 2 years, I've seen it make leaps and bounds, right? Mm-hmm. But it's still not there. And so I don't know if it'll ever get there to the point of being able to sound human. I know so many people that like with AI, they've basically switched to being like AI marketers, teaching you to use AI, teaching you prompts and stuff. But like, it's still missing something, do you know? Yeah. Like their content still doesn't resonate in the same way as like a juicy pour your heart out email does, because it's missing the human touch. And so I like AI, and I saw someone who did a really good like summary of what it is that I like about AI, and that is to get AI to ask you questions to make you think about it deeper. Like if you send it something and be like, is this clear? Where can I be clearer? How can I make this more succinct? That's me all the time. I'm like, how do I make this run-on sentence succinct? And asking questions of like, what's missing? Or this is where my client's at in the buyer's journey. What type of things should I talk about to move them along? And like, I want you to use AI to make you think instead of like giving AI the brain part of your content creation, you know?
Yes, like use it for the tool that it is. Mm-hmm. Don't use it to replace. It's not a replacement for anything. It's a tool to be used as a tool. And I think it's interesting because there is a lot of the hoopla going on right now about all these people basically building these AI marketing agencies to, like you said, teach people how to do this and stuff. And I think the biggest thing with AI, and it kind of goes along with the whole email thing, is like you still have to put in something good to get something good out. Like, you can't just be like, my name's Jessie, I'm a brand strategist, give me a month's worth of social media content. Yeah, what it gives you is going to be straight shit, and it's going to sound like it came from a robot, because it did, and B, like, you're only going to get out what you put in. And I think that, again, that's the mark that people are missing, is that, like, you gotta show up on social media, but you gotta show up intentionally, right?
Yeah.
Well, you gotta use AI to get some help. Well, you gotta show up intentionally. You still have to, like, put in the type of content that you want to get out. And I think that one of the biggest problems with AI right now is that people see it as a shortcut. And truly, it is not a shortcut. It is not well, that's not true. It sort of is a shortcut in this sense of, like, the tool can help you do it faster, but it is not a replacement for you not having to do any quality work, or you not having to have any intention of, what you plan to use, what's coming out. But I like what you said about just how much has changed in the last 2 years. I can't even, like, fathom what it will become in another, like, 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, like, November, I, like, had a little breakdown, and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm gonna become irrelevant, like, AI is gonna replace me. And then I was like, actually, no. Like, not true.
AI is going to be the same shiny object that in 5 years people are going to forget about, because something else is better and shinier and whatever. And by that point, AI became the tool. It never became the shiny object that people thought was going to, replace everything. I love that. So, okay, so let's kind of backtrack for a second here. So I know that you said that you were traveling, and now you're in there. How does like traveling and being in different places affect your creativity?
Oh my God. This is such a good question, and I like going forever. But I am very, what's the word? Like, environment affects my creativity.
Yeah.
So I left Canada 2020 and I moved to Mexico. I didn't intentionally move to Mexico. I was supposed to be backpacking, but borders closed. So I lived in Mexico for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I lived 5 minutes from the beach. It's sunny year round. I don't have to wear pants. I didn't wear socks for like 2 years. And now I'm in France, and there's seasons, and it's cold, and I hate the cold. And it's just like the last 2 weeks, it's like freezing at night, and I'm just like, my brain stopped, like,
I do know. I live in Chicago, where it's very cold, so I do know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I'm like, when I lived in the Rocky Mountains, I, like, in the winter, 4 o'clock, it's dark. It was like we went to the bar every night and did nothing else, And so I'm like, what else do you do when it's dark at 5 o'clock but drink? And I don't like that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like 10 years later. I'm like, I'm not 20. But yeah, like, living in France has definitely affected my creativity, and like, not just because of weather and like climate and stuff, but because I'm in the countryside in a town of 100 people. The closest town is 20 minutes away, and it's 10,000 people. And it's only French people who have never left, who have never traveled. Like, they're not my people. I don't have a community here at all. And so, like, not just like mental health wise, but like creativity wise, like, I can feel the impact every time that I leave and I come back. I'm like, ooh, this is not it.
Yeah. So how are you navigating that? Like, what kind of things are you doing? Because, like, I feel like listeners will be able to relate to that no matter where they live, because whether you live in a town of 100 or you live in a town of 100,000, if you don't find your people in your area, you're going to feel that same, kind of isolation. So how are you navigating that? Like, what kinds of things are you, like, do you feel like you're really struggling with, or how are you trying to kind of like overcome that? What helps you?
So I had my wedding last year to distract me from how much I hated living here. The first year was really hard. So we moved here in April 2023. It was really, really hard. I really struggled to, like, even talk to anyone or like anyone around me. And then it was like 2024 was like wedding planning. So I was like distracted. My friends were coming, like busy. And this year I'm like planning a trip a month to leave. And my husband is very much aware, like, I have a limit. We've passed my limit. And so like we're making plans to leave because I was like it's hard for him because this is like his place. Do you know? Like it's where he grew up, it's where all his family is. And so like it really bothers him that I don't like it. But at the same time, it was never our plan to live here. It was always the plan to like come here and get married and then go somewhere else to like have our own life. And so it's like there's been lots of conversations with my husband of like, it's not that I don't like your family. It's not that I don't like the country, so I can't say that. Like, it's just not my place. And I was like, look, we're both travelers. There's no international community.
Yeah.
It's only French people. It's your friends from high school. It's his life. It's not my life. It's not our life either. And that's like my biggest problem is we're not creating a life for us. I'm just like living in his life. And so I was like, I want us together to build something. And like he gets it, right? And so if he didn't get it, I would not be married to him. But so yeah, like I actually was talking to someone else the other day that I was like, this year protecting my mental health looks like taking a trip a month. I'm going to Portugal in like 2 weeks. I'm going
exciting.
to Poland in March. And either Spain or Morocco in April. Like I got trips. I got things to look forward to.
And okay, now I have to ask because you're so intentional about everything else. What is your intention about each trip? Like, do you have intentions set for these trips to be like just fun, just pleasure, or do you have intention for these trips to be, you know, kind of creative boost for you too, where you do some work in different atmospheres? Like, what is your intention with your traveling?
Not work. I'm not working on any of them right now because, well, maybe I'll work in Poland, but Poland, I'm going for like 4 days. Portugal, we're just going for the weekend and it's just the two of us. So like Portugal is just to have fun. Poland, I'm going to meet a friend because she's in Berlin and I'm here. And it was like, where's the cheapest location for both
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting because I don't like the cold and it's March in Poland. So so, but it's like exciting because it's a new city. I love Eastern Europe like so much more than Western Europe. So it's a new country for me. So it'll be exciting to like see. But it's like for me, travel is about exploring. It's about seeing the new cultures, trying the food, trying the alcohol, trying the music. Like what can I fit in this 4-day weekend, and also like catch up with my friend and like shenanigans.
Yeah, and I mean like those trips probably recharge you a little bit, you know. They probably refuel a little bit of the creativity that you're losing from, you know, being in a place that maybe is not a love place for you.
They're like mental breaks.
Yeah, I mean like it's kind of like any like work during the week, go do something on the weekend to recharge, you know. It's kind of like that same thing, it's just a little bit more extreme.
I'm just leaving the country to recharge.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, okay, so as we sort of, you know, kind of wrap this up, the number one thing that, you know, made me start this podcast to begin with was just kind of my obsession with like opposing the norm, and really just kind of like diving into like the stigma that society creates of like what it means to be successful, and really kind of diving into how each of us can define what success means for us on our own terms, and not feeling like we're always chasing someone else's version of it. So the question I ask everybody at the end of every episode is, you know, what is your definition of success? What does that look like for you?
I feel like I am someone who's like life first before that became a trendy term in the online space.
So you set the trend is what you're saying.
No, not that I set the trend. But like when I backpacked to Europe at 19, I literally like wrote in a journal, and I remember this to this day because I wanted to get something tattooed to signify it, but I've never been able to find a drawing that I like. But that is that like happiness is like the top of my my meter of values. It's not family, it's not money, it's not friends, it's not work, it's happiness, and it's my happiness specifically, right?
Right.
And so like that's how I've always defined my success. And like, if we're being honest, my life in Mexico I would consider more successful than my life in France, even if I earn more money now. But because I liked my life better, because
Sure.
I had access to the beach, I had the location I wanted, I had a good friend circle, I had the weather year round, So it's like now that I feel like I've taken a step back, and that's like hard to come to terms with, because I'm like, well, I'm still successful in these other ways, but in what matters most to me, there's a key thing missing to my success, and that is the location where I live.
Yes. I love the ideology of success being more of a feeling than a, numeric, like a metric system of any kind, because truly when there's a metric, it means you're kind of chasing something that was created by someone, even if it was you, like you could be chasing this metric that doesn't matter. Doesn't like, I mean, like people are chasing 100,000 followers on Instagram. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. People are chasing this
And what
7-figure mark.
happens
Doesn't
when you
matter.
get there? That is like
Exactly.
a big thing I had to deal with when I lived in Mexico, was like, okay, now I've found my dream life. Now what?
Now what? Yes. The now what? Oh, I love that. I love that. I so relate to that. Oh my gosh. Okay, Felly, thank you so much for joining me today. Opening up a little bit about your journey, what you're doing right now. Is there anything that you want to share with listeners that, any lead magnets or anything that you want to share with them to kind of get them in connecting with you?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a private podcast called Turn 1 into 10. So it teaches you how to DIY your repurposing strategy and turn one piece of content into 10 pieces of content. Other than that, you can find me on Threads, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn at Felly Day.
Oh, that's 3 platforms. Which one is your choice?
Personally, I only use Instagram for DMs because Threads doesn't have it, but
Yeah.
I'm on Threads and I'm testing LinkedIn right now. So
Yeah.
LinkedIn, we'll see if it lasts through Q1.
So see, she's in an experimental phase because she got to a place with the 2 and now she's trying the 3rd. Oh my gosh. Okay, I love that. You guys, I will leave the link in the show notes for that lead magnet. I, for one, am going to just go go sign up for her right now. So, okay, Felly, thank you so much. If you guys are vibing with this episode, leave us a comment, leave us a DM, leave us a review on whatever platform that you guys are watching or listening to this episode. But until next time, you guys, keep dreaming and stay fabulous. Bye, guys.
Bye.